We also worked on some interesting things about camouflage that made an airplane harder to see remarkably. And that turned out to be painting in high gloss like your finest speedboat instead of that dull gray that Navy airplanes were at that time. Um, and then we would have a rapid training course for the people at Magoo. And the results of that went to Myanmar, where most of the people going to Vietnam were going through training. And that training actually eventually evolved into the Top Gun. So we had a place in getting that set up too.
Do you feel any personal effect on your conscience knowing that you helped develop some of these weapons that are involved in mass murder?
No, because the projects that I was on were all defensive. The camouflage, the electric countermeasures so they couldn't shoot you down, the strange paint jobs, and that sort of thing. So we're trying to work out a way to shoot down an ICBM from a Phantom, which was also another interesting project. We had no business being in Vietnam after the French left. But we, at that time, were crazed about the fear of communism.
Or do you think that we never should have belonged there outside of trying to stop the spread of communism?
And they tried to run the war from Washington, which didn't work because the troops on the ground had a much better grasp of what we needed to fight effectively and what we should have done and so forth. But again, this was a flaw that we seemed to fall into in that era of trying to manage things from Washington rather than from the guys who were closer to the fight and knew what was going on. At that time, if a lot of kids went to college just to avoid going to Vietnam, because if you went to college and spent 4 years there, you might be exempt, or you certainly would become an officer if you did have to go. So that was sort of a way of resisting the war. And of course, you knew all the Vietnam protesters were out in mass during that time, and they didn't support the war. And I think you probably remember the story about Jane Fonda, who had her picture taken on the North Vietnamese anti-aircraft gun. Didn't gain her too many friends in the military. Washington wanted to demonstrate the reach of American air power.
Wow.
And one of the reasons the project got scuttled because if they sent me with the squadron, which they planned to do, and I got shot down, it would look very bad if a physician was shot down while flying over Hanoi.